presents Scratch a Track,
the podcast where we debate which track to scratch off some of the most known and unknown albums of all time.
We live in an era of singles.
This is an album.
People no longer listen to an album for the work it truly is.
It kind of defines a band.
It's just not something that people relate to nowadays.
We've all gotten the dreaded.
It started out as a game.
Which track on the album would you scratch out if you had to? Welcome back, everyone, to another exciting episode of Scratch a Track, presented by the Dude and Grim Show. I am the Dude, and with me, as always, is Grim. What up, Grim? How you doing there, my friend?
I'm good, man. Just ready to talk about another classic from our generation this week.
You're talking about my generation.
Yeah, Odelay by Beck.
Beck Hansen. Beck. Good dude. Great look. Good drummer. No, he is. I'm a huge fan of Beck, and it's interesting. This is his 5th studio album, and probably I'm getting.
Wow, what?
Yeah, I know. That's what it said. Yeah, it's his most famous too. I don't know I do know a couple that came before that.
I mean, all I know is 1 Foot in the Grave and Mellow Gold.
That's what I know too, but it said 5. So if I'm wrong, blame Wikipedia. So
yeah, I will.
But he had initial, obviously, as most people know, real initial success with Loser. That was kind of his big thing, and you wouldn't want to. He's not really a one-hit wonder by any means, but. That
was definitely the first one.
Yeah. And this album, though, just put him like in a complete different stratosphere. And he gained, I think, a lot of, respect from musicians and people, around the world, because I don't think a lot of people saw it coming. And I mean, this was nominated, a lot of critical acclaim. It won the Grammy was nominated for Album of the Year. But of course, it only won for Best Alternative Album in '97. And I really think I need to look up and see who else won that year, because I have a feeling
it probably wasn't this good.
Yeah. This one's probably stood the test of time a lot more than whatever that one is. And I could be totally wrong. It wouldn't be the first time. So, but Rolling Stone, they kind of knew what was going on. They named it Album of the Year. So I think, like you said a few minutes ago, this is one of the albums that growing up really kind of stood out to you. And I think that's probably the case for a lot of people, because it was very different in '96 and stuff, kind of when it came out. This is a little, I don't know if I would say, and maybe you would, a little more post grunge. And I feel the alternative music scene was kind of finding itself a little bit.
Well, and to me, this was just different than a lot of stuff. I mean, it wasn't grunge. I mean, a lot of the album was produced by these guys called the Dust Brothers. So a lot of it was like these grooves made out of sampled
beats and stuff,
sampled songs. I mean, if you listen, cut with beats. And then if you listen to if you go ahead and read about it and look at the samples that were used, it's really amazing. Like, I would have thought for a single song, you'd use maybe like a sample and build on that. I mean, there's songs where they use 4 and 5 samples.
Right? Yeah. No, it's crazy. And when you are listening to the album,
you can hear that.
Yeah, one song can go in. It goes in 3 or 4 different directions, and you're like, what? But at the same time, it kind of maintains its feel, and that is what's so impressive about it.
I agree. It's really crazy.
It's almost it's all over the place, and it's like a country hip hop album.
In a lot of ways, it is.
And I think the Dust Brothers. I have the utmost respect for Beck and his musical ability, but I think what the Dust Brothers brought to this album just took it to another level that he wouldn't have been able to get to.
I completely agree. Yeah.
And so I actually read when he started working on the album, which was supposed to be Odelay, he intended it to be a little more, it was supposed to be more acoustic and chill. And then he recorded a couple of the songs, and only I think three of those songs from like those sessions or whatever the producers he was working with made that, he's actually released today. And the only one that made on this album was Ramshackle. And then he started working with the Dust Brothers here, and they just, they had worked with, who was it, Beastie Boys and Young MC, and they came from more of that hip hop style. So this must have been a really great challenge for them to incorporate his kind of silly country slide guitar playing, style, and for both of them to kind of take a chance on each other, I think is very, very cool.
I agree, and it really worked out.
Mm-hmm. It did.
Really worked out.
It did. But, and real quick, before we get into the album, how about that cover, man?
Dude, that dog is.
Dude, I didn't even know what that. I didn't even know what that was when I was a kid growing up. Like, seriously, it's a cover that I had looked at and had seen for years and years and years, and then I actually looked. I was like, "What the hell is that?" I'm like, "That's a flipping dog, man!" And but apparently it's a rare Hungarian breed of dog.
I know,
and
which makes sense because it has like Marley dreads.
Yeah, I was gonna say it looks like it's a freaking. It can mop my floor, man. So, but all right, well, let's get into it. Let's start scratching. Lots of hits on this album, lots of singles. I think I read there was I think 4 or 5. And the first track off the album, I don't think Devil's Haircut was the first single. I think Where It's At might have been, but I could be completely wrong.
But it was one.
But it was definitely one, and one that really stands out for me. I mean, dude, the way that starting an album like that, it kind of reminds me of OK Computer, where man, it just hits you like boom, just hits you in the face.
Mm-hmm.
But this is even heavier and nastier. That riff, man, and it kind of goes through the song in between the verses. And it just really kind of sets up where this whole album is going to go, because it's kind of all over the place. Like,
I agree. There's samples in there, and it's like it doesn't sound like certainly like anything that's coming out then, or anything else you really know.
Right. And even the music video is cool. Mark Romanek, he's the one who directed the music video, and you got Beck like walking down the street with his cowboy boots and cowboy hat, and he's got a boombox and ghetto blast. It's just like, dude, so weird and so kind of funky, man. It's really interesting. So,
now the next one, Hot Wax, is actually
Hot Wax.
Well, okay, so I'm just gonna go to the next two. The next two are honestly my favorite two on the album, because they have like you said, that weird mix of like country and hip hop, but not the shitty way that it's done today. It's like some weird hybrid that you didn't know could exist. But the two of those have this kind of weird mixture of that and maybe some soul and blues, and it really works for me. And those were the two I think that got me more than anything. When I bought the album when I was younger and listened to it, and then the next one goes in a totally different direction. Yeah. Well, going back to Hot Wax real quick, it's so funny that he some of these songs he basically is rapping. And it's just like, and we can get into his lyrics, which are actually, I don't know that we would have time.
no, I was gonna say, because they are kind of, in the most sophisticated way, kind of ridiculous. But he's also, he just randomly throwing Spanish in there, and I looked up in Hot Wax, dude. I looked up what it meant. And dude, his Spanish says, "I am a wax record. I have gum and wax." Yeah, it's like, what, dude? I don't know what you're saying, man.
I know.
But it's great. It sounds good.
It does. But that's one thing I've liked about a lot of his subsequent work too, is how he just throws in those little Spanish phrases. Like when we
Guero.
eventually go over Guero, I mean, when he talks about like that, you don't wake these guys sleeping on the street up till the rooster crows. And then he says Mas Cerveza because they had too much beer. Like,
Right.
I like that.
I'm gonna get the new Yanni cassette. Like, dude, how does that? I mean, I know that's a complete different album, but who thinks? I mean, that kind of stuff. They'd be like, "Hey, we should put this in there."
Dude, it's awesome.
Like, yeah. But so moving on, next song after Lord Only Knows is one of my favorite songs on the album, actually, and that's "The New Pollution." And to be honest, I just love the intro. I could just hear the intro and I'm good after that.
It reminds me of a 70s commercial or something.
So the way I had actually described it, and I don't know if it's the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, whatever, but it reminds me of like a commercial or a sitcom TV show, like the intro.
Yep.
And you're like riding in a car with the Avon lady through like an Edward Scissorhands neighborhood where it's just like everything's just perfect and it's sunny out and, you know, the kids are playing ball in the yard and, you know, Jim's, you know, watering the lawn and Bobby's washing the car and it's like Leave It to Beaver, happy family kind of stuff. It just has that feel. And dude, one thing he uses so much slide guitar in this album, and I think he uses it in that song too. And it's just, it's just so interesting, man. Mixing the kind of hip hop with the slide guitar, it's just such a weird like juxtaposition of sound that kind of shouldn't work, but it does.
Yeah,
and
it absolutely does.
Yeah. So after New Pollution, we go to Derelict. And there's a lot of percussion going on.
I know,
there,
and
man.
I like it because I think it sounds like almost like dark and Egyptian, Middle Eastern in some ways. And it's
that's
just a
Yep.
totally weird departure, but again, it works.
Yeah, that's kind of how I had it described. And I think Egyptian, I had it described for myself as kind of like an Indian Middle Eastern feel, like a snake charmer kind of thing. It has that feel to it, and it's funky and weird. It is funky and weird. I remember, I think I was reading or listening to the lyrics, and I couldn't recite them to you now, like most of his, but they're pretty out there.
Yeah,
pretty out there. So. Well, if you weren't feeling numb yet, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, but it actually, if you listen to the lyrics, it does work with the title Derelict because it's like about somebody who's basically just like, fuck it, and just...
Sure.
Yeah.
Fuck it.
But no, if you're not numb now, I mean, you will be after Novocaine.
Novocaine.
Which I like because it's kind of hard and nasty.
Yeah, and it's got, the intro is cool. The harmonic. He also, other than slide guitar, he's got some harmonica in this album, and he picks it up in that song too. He starts rapping over the top and doing his thing again. There's a really cool guitar part in the middle, that I forget. I think it's about halfway through, and there's a really cool guitar riff that is kind of clean, and then it follows up with like a real heavy, like nasty, fuzzy version of it. And it just sounds really, really cool. It sounds really cool. And then in kind of a very Beckish way, the song ends with, crazy sounds and synth sounds. And it's like a synth and, synth having an orgasm on acid or something.
Yeah. But I mean, I think we've said that before about songs. That's just like a Beck ending.
Yeah, it is. And,
but then it gets into that. Well, I guess you're right. It ultimately has it. But when it gets into that hip hop beat for a minute, that's really fresh too.
Yep. So, and then going to the donkey track, a little Jackass.
Yep, and Jackass, interestingly. Okay, now this is where it gets deep. So Jackass, the Dust Brothers sampled "It's All Over Now, Baby Blue," but not "It's All Over Now, Baby Blue" by Bob Dylan. A cover of "It's All Over Now, Baby Blue" by the band Them, who was fronted by Van Morrison. I don't know if they were at this time, but that they were.
Wow. That is really interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't know that, man, unless you're digging deep.
Well, I don't know. I don't know where I heard about that, but that, that was one of those ones that sound was so distinct where you're like, okay, that's obviously sampled. And I remember just looking it up once, and then I listened to that version of It's All Over Now, Baby Blue by them, and it was striking to me at like how well they sampled it, because it wasn't like you were listening for this tiny cut up piece of the record. Like most of the song, unless there were vocals, sounded exactly like the Beck song. I mean,
interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, I'm gonna have to check that out. I'm gonna have to check it out. Yeah, it's a good song. I enjoy it. I feel like it's actually one of the more straightforward songs on the album.
Agreed. And I do like the sound of the real donkey in the end of it. That's awesome.
It's amazing.
It's kind of a rough sound.
Oh, dude, it doesn't sound happy. Like, no. I don't know what's. I don't want to speculate what's going on there, but I don't know, man. It can't be good. So then we get to probably the most well-known track on the album, and that's Where It's At. Which, dude, I mean, after that intro, I almost don't even need to hear anything else. It's so good. Just there's something. It's just so sexy and so smooth and warm. And
for me, I mean, I know earlier, and this is again total nerddom, and I get it, but you had mentioned the synth when we were talking how they cut it up differently on subsequent versions. And you mentioned the synth intro for Where It's At, and I only say this because I own one of these instruments, and it's so phenomenal. But that is the Wurlitzer,
the Whirly
200 electric piano on that, and it just sounds so good.
No, and I am definitely cheapening it by calling it a synth. For sure. So
one of the true great electric
to any
pianos.
of the musicians out there. Oh, dude, it just sounds so good.
It does.
It sounds so good. And I mean, there's a part of me that's like, dude, do we even need to talk about this song? Because I ain't scratching it. And
absolutely not.
I don't think you are either.
All I will say is
it speaks for itself. It's like Stairway. You know?
Oh yeah. When I got and restored my Wurlitzer electric, that was one of the first things I played on it, because it's like it's so like from our generation, like
it's meant to be, man.
Yeah, that was like the example you had of what that piano sounded like, because I mean no one else was playing it at that time.
Yeah. Well, and everybody, and it's got obviously it's the popular song, but it's got the lyrics that everybody knows and sings. And even though his lyrics all over, shine your shoes with your microphone blues and 2 turntables and a microphone, I think more people actually think this song is called like 2 turntables and a microphone than Where It's At.
Yeah,
I remember searching on, back in the day when you had Napster and all that, that's the title that would come up all the time. So
now here's what I want to know is, as I'm looking at the sample list, Where It's At has 5 different samples listed, and I do wonder if one of those samples is the intro. So I'm gonna have to listen to all 5 now and see. But anyways, moving on.
Damn it, God! I'm gonna be honest, man. I really hope it's not.
I do too, but dude,
the chances are really high because it. But I feel like that's so well known though, that we would have heard that, right?
Dude, but I could read you the list of samples that are done in that song, that are used in that song, and I can guarantee you have never heard one of them. I know I have.
I guarantee you're definitely right. All right, moving on. Minus.
Just kind of a weird, grungy.
Little rock song, dirty guitar throughout.
Different, definitely a departure from the rest of the album.
So here's the thing, and that's the thing. It reminded me kind of a little bit more of his older stuff, kind of a little grittier and sort of just not as. Didn't from what I remember, it doesn't have like kind of the beats. Maybe I would say it doesn't. It kind of doesn't have the Dust Brothers fairy dust on it, you know.
That's a good.
And that's okay. It's fine. It's fine. Now Sissy Neck starts with the whistle blowing.
Dude, I know, but that's to me one of even maybe the most perfect example of that weird country hip hop mix.
The mix, dude, right? I mean, it's so funny how it goes and starts off and everything, and then all of a sudden,
lyrics
like,
are just like a golden country great.
Dude,
I mean,
oh, absolutely,
a stolen wife and a rhinestone life and some good old boys. I mean, that's
dude. I'm writing my will on a $3 bill, like, dude, and that's what I love about it. The chorus comes in, it's very like crisp and clean and clear, and it sounds so like he's like. For Beck, he's singing.
Yeah.
You know, like,
and it's it's not sampled. That seems like it isn't sampled. It probably is, but it seems like
it is. Yeah, it's great, man. It is. And yeah, he throws in some, it's got that country feel, throwing in some slide guitar because that's what you do. Yeah, good track. Now we have Ready Made.
See, now I like it. I think it's slower. Okay. It obviously sounds sampled.
It is very chill.
We use that term a lot in this one, but it's hard not to because I think everything that we've talked about has probably not included any samples up to this point, and this is such a departure in that way. But with that saying, it does have that sound, but I like how it's really chill and slow and just kind of it's got a different groove.
Yeah, it's very basic. I would say it's more stripped down and bare than a lot of the other songs on the album. You know, again, though, that doesn't say much because if you actually do listen to it, there is stuff going on there. And you know, he actually kind of sings in it and stuff. But it's not as in your face as you know, something like Devil's Haircut, right? And then we have High Five. Rock the Catskills.
Dude, it could have been
Parens.
Yeah.
Parens.
It could have been like one of those 80s rap songs with a sweet DJ because of all the weird places it goes, but it's awesome. Dude, and then bringing back Novocaine in it too.
Oh, it's great. So, dude, I described it. This is the way I just. It's funny how you just said that. So I described it as, to me, it sounds like a DJ robot dance off.
Yeah,
you know, like it just kind of does.
It's really good.
And I don't want to. Well, I'm going to actually save this for our scratch discussion. There's something I do want to say about it. Then here we go to the last. Well, kind of the last song on the album, and it's.
I mean, let's say it's the last song on the album, the way the album was made when we bought it.
Yeah. There is a
the other track. One was a hidden track, and it always should be.
Yeah, exactly. So I love this song, and
me too.
The acoustic. It's
so warm.
It's so warm and thick. Yeah, that's really warm the way I have to describe it too. It sounds like
because he's playing a classical guitar with his fingers, so automatically you're losing some of that really high end of an acoustic.
Sure,
but you're right. Yeah. That thickness of it is just it's great.
And to me, maybe it's the I guess it's a classical. It sounds almost doubled to me.
Oh, I'm sure it is. I'm sure.
Okay, all right. And then you get this kind of light drum like way off in the background. It's kind of like, it's like modest. It's like Isaac Brock was hanging out there singing his vocals like way deep, or something. But he's like, dude, like way in the back, right? And I think, like I mentioned earlier, this song was recorded with different producers other than the Dust Brothers. Now they may have had a hand in something here, but it probably doesn't sound like they did. When Beck was thinking of doing this as more Odelay is more of a softer acoustic type thing. Obviously, it didn't go in that direction.
But I love that they ended it with it.
And here's the thing. I love it. This is one of my favorite songs on the album. But I think you would also have to say, does it fit the album? And
to me, yes, because of where it is.
yeah, okay,
Because
okay.
of where it
yeah.
is. It's
sure.
it's a
yes.
nice wrap
Where it's
up.
at. That you like
It's
that
a
pun?
nice
Yeah, okay.
wrap. Yeah, it's where it's at. It's a nice wrap up to this
You're right.
crazy kind of all over the place thing. In
You're
my
right.
opinion.
You're right. It's no, I can't disagree with that at all. As a whole, if you just take it track by track, I'm like, okay, if I was to play each one of these songs and say which song do you think didn't make the album, I would probably pick this one. But you're totally right. If it's going to be anywhere, it's got to be at the end.
Yeah,
it's
in
like,
the context of it.
Yeah, he's kind of like, you know what? I've kicked your ass for the past like 65 minutes. Why don't you just chill out now?
Yeah.
So thanks, Beck. I appreciate that. And then there is the hidden track. I don't even know if it really goes silent. It may go silent.
Oh, it does.
A little bit.
I mean, look at it.
Okay.
7:29. I think it goes silent for
Oh,
like
is that what it is?
a minute or two, maybe.
Okay. Well, I'm unfortunately looking at the Apple Music version, and they don't have that. It goes Ramshackles 447, and then they've renamed the hidden track and given it its own hidden track number, which I don't agree with, as Computer Rock, and that's 43 seconds. So, Apple, we love you. We hope you're going to really put our podcast to the top of the list, but I don't love everything you're doing with some of these.
Well,
like,
but
new versions and stuff.
it's not even them. Every one of them's the same. Every streaming service out there, I think, is doing that. And I don't know if it's the artists or the record companies releasing it or what. But I mean, those of us who bought the album in an album format. Now, granted, for us it was the second generation on CD, but album format nonetheless. You couldn't skip to the hidden track. You just had to let it play.
And that, now that you say it from the streaming perspective, it makes complete sense to me, because they also did the same thing with Where It's At, where the beginning record scratch and everything is 11 seconds. The song is going to go. People who are listening to these playlists, they don't want gaps and things in between their songs. They want their songs to be whole and complete.
Yeah, and I don't get that. I hate it, but yeah, you're right. I mean, God forbid it would, you'd get a little breather and it would sound like a needle dropped, like the way people a lot still do listen to music, but
listen to music. Yeah. Like the real listeners, right?
Yeah, dude.
Dude, I think we need to someday when this podcast blows up, we need to press our podcast to vinyl.
That would be good. Only if we can get the rights to play the music as the backdrops for each song.
Totally. All right. Well, enough pissing about here, dude. I think I took the lead on the last scratch track.
Fair enough.
I want you to drop the hammer and tell us which one didn't make the cut.
Well, for me, the hammer is easy, and that is Minus. It's just, it's more like the times, I guess, more grungy, but that isn't why it's my scratch. I guess for me, musically, it's just kind of ugly. In my mind, musically, right. There's not these moments, and to me, that's more of a departure in a lot of ways, even than Ramshackle, because I don't know, for some reason, whether it's his rapping or the lyrics that he's saying or the way the sounds blend together, everything has this element of almost like a little like lighthearted and kind of humorous. And this one just doesn't to me.
Yeah, sure. I can understand that. It's a little bit of a departure. And this one's a little more, just kind of in your face. And that's why I think when we were talking about it earlier, it kind of reminded me a little bit of his older stuff a little bit. Not that his older stuff is like as, overly serious, but it's just kind of harder and in your face a little bit. And it's not as playful as some, some of the other songs. So I get that. I do. I can't disagree with that. I think mine, I don't know if it'll surprise you. But it's one that I feel is I can skip because I like the songs that bookend it. And I feel like it doesn't, for me musically, it doesn't go a lot of places, even though we kind of said it did go a lot of places, including to the Middle East and Egypt, and that's Derelict.
I could see that. If you're not into that sound, I could see how that would be a little off-putting. I certainly can.
Yeah, because I don't want to say it's not like a song. It's because it's just there's a lot going on and it's kind of funky and stuff. And I think there's a time and place for all of that. And in the album as a whole, okay. But let's just say if I was making a playlist of my favorite Beck songs, I probably wouldn't put that one on it. Now,
that's fair, man. If that's your scratch, that's your scratch.
Yeah. That's my
the
scratch.
game.
So yeah, the game changer. Scratched away.
I like that. But the interesting thing is, when we look at the tracks that we both chose, now they were different, but in a lot of ways they were the same because they didn't fit, aside from Ramshackle, and maybe you could argue High Five, but aside from that, they didn't fit that mold of this mesh of weird sounds. They're both kind of off on their own. They're almost like little islands in the context of the whole thing.
It's interesting you bring High Five back up because that's what I did want to say that, but I wanted to wait till we got to this point. I actually would have scratched that song, except I just really love the words of the lyrics. High five, more dead than alive.
I do too.
And that's the saving grace right there.
I know,
man.
and there's nothing better than when the whole thing stops and that record's like, that dude. That's so classic. Yeah. It's so classic.
Yeah, totally. So, yeah, I mean, and I think we established. I mean, we established that the hidden track, quote unquote, computer rock, whatever, is a part of Ramshackle. And if for some reason people were playing this game and they were going off of that track listing, I would have cut that out, and because it would have just been, but that would have been taking the easy way out. I feel like this is, we both took more proper tracks for this album, my friend.
Yeah.
So
no, I hear you. Let's at the end of this, I'm gonna have to cut that, which I will. But do your wrap up part, and then I want to count down from 5 at the very end, just to make sure, because I fucked up.
Sure. Yep, fucked up the timing. Fucked up. Oh, I watched. We'll talk about it later. I did watch. What is it called? Spinal Tap. This is the legendary Spinal Tap. Spinal Tap's recording of it. Okay. Well, that pretty much hold up, I peeked. Yeah. Well, that pretty much wraps up Beck's Odelay, Scratch a Track. I went with Derelict. Grim went with Minus. And as always, we appreciate you all being here and being a part of this fun little journey debate that we're on. Like I said in the previous episode, we are on Twitter now, and we'll start tweeting for the both of us a little more. But we'd love to hear your guys' feedback, what songs you guys would scratch. If you think we're crazy for what we'd scratch, feel free to call us out. Also, give us some ideas. What albums would you guys like us to break down and examine, and give us some thoughts on where we should go in the future. Now, we do have quite a backlog, but we definitely love this to be more of a community thing where
interactive.
We talk. Yeah, exactly. Interactive, where we interact together. Because I think it's a fun thing to talk about, and it's a fun game to play with your friends. So we hope you've enjoyed listening, and signing off for the Dude and Grim. This is the Dude and Grim Show. This is Scratch a Track, respectively.
Scratch a Track is produced by the Dude and Grim. Additional music provided by More. That's ... MORE, and the Tims, TIMNZ. Copyright 2020, The Dude and Grim Show.